And if you want to win the war with a con, you can't let them know that they're a con, and you have to set them up with a much bigger deal. And you need to do it in phases. You can't do it all in one conversation or it becomes too obvious. One day you talk to them, hey, I'm working on a deal. Next day, hey, how's it going with the, I think I got this deal. It's going to cost about $450,000. You kind of string it out. You make it seem real. And then at the end of the day says, I got to pull the trigger on this, but you got to settle up with this other one before we move into this. I'm just going to roll it all plus more into the next one. Do it the same way we did it before. I don't care how you did it. I have to do this so fast. I can't even worry about paperwork right now. I'll sign paperwork later, because that's another thing I listen for from the other side. When people start saying, oh, why don't you put in the money and we'll get the paperwork done next week? You know what? When I hear that shit, I'm like, oh no. Who are you? And that's when I start doing the research.
Amazing.
It's worked for me 4 times in a row. 2 of them were me when I was young. And then 2 or 3 other times I coached students who got conned and they got the money from their con.
That's amazing.
So
where did you make this video? On your YouTube channel, or where is it? You said you made a video a couple of days ago.
How to recognize a con. I'm writing about a chapter a day. I have ADD, so my chapters are really short, but I just take things that have happened to me and I just make them into the story. And I wrote that story 2 days ago about the cons, and then the day before that I was writing like how to beat these cons. So there's how to recognize the con, and then there's another chapter how to beat the con. If you want to try to beat them, if you've got nothing to lose because you've already gotten out of control of your money or your property, if you have nothing to lose, then you try this. It doesn't hurt anything. The only thing you can't do when you're conning the cons is you don't have exactly as much leverage as the con has. The con will forge documents. He'll forge notaries. He'll write hot checks. When you're conning a con, you cannot break any laws. You have to con them with illusion. You can't con them with forged documents or anything. It's not going to do any good to beat the con at his game if you become a criminal,
right,
in the process. You know what I mean? I actually studied cons for a long time. I studied them because, if you look back at the cons, they make so much money. And if they would just apply the talent that they have within the boundaries of the law or integrity, they would never worry about money or be broke ever, because they're so talented.
Isn't that so true?
The problem is the reason why I was studying them was because I wanted to know, how do they get these people's confidence like this? The problem is some of the things they do, I can't do. I can't promise someone a 200% rate of return. They can, because they're never going to pay you. They can promise whatever rate of return they want. So I'm limited by that. They can break laws and do things I can't do. But still, I'm very intrigued about how these con men and how their lives are so long. It seems like people would catch on to them, but they just move from place to place to place, and they start over all the time, always starting over. And they move magnificent amount of money. Bernie Madoff. Why the hell did that guy have to lie about all that?
He was a smart guy.
That's what I'm saying.
He could have used it somewhere else.
Most of them are. They prey on your kindness, your naivete, your integrity, your givingness.
A lot of times your Christian values, which is why a lot of them use the evangelical facade, right? They prey on your Christian values of, help your brother and your sister and all of those types of things. They prey on Bible stories.
So what you have to prey on if you're going to go after them and try to get made whole. And I've never gone after them to get up on them. I just want to break even, or just get my money back. Forget about my time. Forget about my half of the deal. Just give me my principal back. But when you're going after them, they only have one chink in their armor, and they have maybe 2. The ego and the greed. That's the two biggest ones. So I got that answer when I was in that waiting room, listening to those people screaming at this guy. and leaving. And then I would move up in line and another person would go in and there'd be screaming and yelling. And then they would, and I started asking, I started praying like, okay, it's obvious to me I've been had. I don't have a leg to stand on. This guy has got me lock, stock, and barrel. God, where is the chink? Tell me where the chink. How do I beat this guy? And I started asking in prayer, like, how do I beat this guy? And the answer I got was, you can only beat them through their ego and their greed. So when I went in there, I was all smiles. I was the only guy that wasn't cussing him out. I made him feel like I was so friggin' dumb that it was almost irresistible to him to go for the 700,000. I made myself look so completely naive that he couldn't resist himself. And lucky for me. I don't know why. I've never heard anybody talk about about that before. Have you ever heard anybody talk about cons before?
No, I love it. I think that there should be a whole book, especially people getting into real estate and private money lending and doing deals with people, because they're out there. I've ran into a handful of them and lost a lot of money not knowing what you just said right here. This would have saved me millions of dollars and years of my life, and anxiety and near divorce situations with my wife, just, because of the stress in our household because of con artists.